Hello, everybody. We will continue today with the third year of the secondary education LS section. We still in the part of the nervous system, and we will continue with the chapter 10, documents 2, where we will observe some information about the elements of myotatic reflex. We have studied this reflex, its meaning and its importance in the preceding video, and today we will start by some revision, points of revision from the last video. This is the notion or the concept of the reflex. This is another example. This reflex is an involuntary reaction that is done by response to a stimulus. This reflex has a general pathway of the nervous message from a sensory receptor till an effector organ that leads to the response by contraction if it is a muscle. And this is the reflex that we have called the myotatic reflex. And this reflex tried to correct the position of the body by the contraction of some muscles, and that we call the body posture. This reflex is in contact relation with the muscle activities, and especially with the extensor and flexor muscles that are responsible respectively for the extension and the flexion of the body parts. These muscles are called antagonistic muscles since they have opposite roles. The Sherrington experiment have showed us that the stretching of the muscle is responsible for the contraction in the case of the myotatic reflex, and this stretching is the stimulus of the myotatic reflex. Because of that, we defined the myotatic reflex as the contraction of the muscle following its own stretching. Please, if you have any difficulties in these ideas, refer to the previous video about all these ideas. Now, what does stretching mean in the real life? This is the stretching of the muscle that is obtained after hitting the tendon of the muscle. And this is what we mean by stretching of the muscle. And this stretching leads to the contraction of the same muscle. And since this muscle in this case is an extensor muscle, so an extension is obtained. Now, what is the importance of this reflex? This reflex is very important to contract every muscle after its stretching, and this contraction will lead to the maintain of the posture of the body by correcting always its position. Now, the reflex is done by a receptor that we have said that this receptor is not found outside the muscle but inside of it, since the muscle itself is stretched at each time we make this reflex. Now, what are the elements responsible for the myotatic reflex? This is our question today, and this is a very quick problem, since we already know that there is an effector organ in this reflex that is the muscle, especially part of the muscle that we will see. The nerves that are responsible for the transmission of the messages are part of this reflex elements, but we have to study these nerves in the next time. Now, the information that we will study today are concerning the nerve center responsible for the reflex and the sensory receptor of this reflex. What is the nerve center and what is the sensory receptor of this reflex? First, the nerve center. Sherrington experiment have shown, indicated that the stretching of the muscle is responsible for the contraction obtained. But it can give us another important idea, since the cat on which the experiment have been done is a spinal cat. What does this mean? This means that the cat has a sectioned spinal cord. Sectioned spinal cord means that at the level of the neck, the spinal cord is disconnected from the rest of the brain. And this means that the body is no longer in contact or in connection or in relation with any nerve center except the spinal cord, because the nerve centers are found either in the brain as cerebrum, cerebellum, and medulla, or in the spinal cord. And since the spinal cord is disconnected from the other parts of the central nervous system, so we have only the spinal cord as a nerve center connected to the body, which means that this spinal cord is the center of this reflex. This is a very, very clear idea that we have noted here. Now, what is the sensory receptor sensitive to stretching and that is found inside the muscle? We said already that this receptor is found where? Inside the muscle. Okay, but what is this receptor? In order to know what is this receptor, we have only to discuss the muscle. We have only to dissect the muscle and observe what do we have inside of it. This receptor is called the neuromuscular spindle, which is the receptor sensory for stretching. And this receptor is found inside the muscle, inside a capsule. This capsule divides the muscle into two parts. The fibers that are outside it and the fibers that are inside of it. Outside it, we have the extrafusal muscle fibers that are the effector organ of this reflex. And inside of it, we have the intrafusal muscle fibers that consist of the receptor that is sensitive for stretching and which is necessary to obtain this myotatic reflex. Now, by repeating, this hitting on the tendon will make stretching of the muscle. This stretching will stretch also the neuromuscular spindle that is found inside the muscle. And this stretching of the neuromuscular spindle will lead to a sensory message directed to the spinal cord. After that, a motor message is directed to the muscle, and this motor message will lead to its contraction. We just knew that the nerve center of this reflex is the spinal cord, and the receptor sensitive for stretching is the neuromuscular spindle. These are the two ideas that we have to study today. And another thing, the other elements of the myotatic reflex are the sensory fibers responsible for transmitting the sensory message. They are related to the sensory receptor, and the motor fibers that are related to the extrafusal muscle fibers. Now, these fibers have to be connected with the spinal cord. But the very important idea here is how are they connected? So we have other elements of this reflex that are responsible for the connection of the muscle to the spinal cord, and that we will study in the next videos. Thank you. Thanks, nervous system, since you are protecting us always from dangers. And thank you all. And I hope to see you in the next video in order to continue and complete this topic concerning the elements of the myotatic reflex. Thank you very much.